A conservation project in South Georgia is reaping multiple benefits for the environment. The Orion Society is helping restore the longleaf pine as it focuses on its core mission of preserving the eastern indigo snake. Supported by the Longleaf Legacy, an environmental stewardship partnership between Southern Company and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, the Society is replanting more than 500 acres with longleaf seedlings. The longleaf pine forest is a critical habitat for the indigo snake as well as for the gopher tortoise. Helping to protect these two threatened species is yet another benefit of a healthy longleaf ecosystem. Longleaf pine forest once covered 90 million acres of North America, yet today less than 3% remains. Restoring the longleaf pine in the southeast is a priority for Southern Company and a focus of the energy company's environmental mission.
The longleaf has so many additional benefits besides the tree itself. It creates a perfect habitat for native grasses, all kind of wildlife. I'm very proud that our company has a part in this restoration effort in the South.
The Orion Society works with a diverse group of partners to achieve success by using sound science to direct on-the-ground conservation. Formed in 2008, the Society uses the eastern indigo snake as its flagship.
First step, we'll burn to generate the seed to collect this fall. Then we'll burn the sites where we're going to plant the trees to prepare the site. And at the same time that we're planting the trees, we'll also drill the native ground cover seed. We will continue to burn every 3 to 4 years.
Since 2004, the partnership between Southern Company and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation has invested more than $8.7 million in projects to restore the longleaf pine forest and the native species that rely on it. The Orion Society project and others like it demonstrate the kind of innovative work that is producing positive, tangible results for the region's environment. A gum pond is a unique type of southern wetland and one that is increasingly vulnerable to the impacts of development and other factors. In southeast Mississippi, a 5-star restoration grant is helping the Crosby Arboretum preserve the habitat and educate visitors about its ecological importance. Southern Company and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation are supporting the Arboretum's gum pond exhibit through 2 5-star grants. The initial grant allowed the Arboretum and its partners, which includes Mississippi State University, to create a more than 13,000 square foot gum pond wetland exhibit that serves as an outdoor classroom for area schools and the general public. Additional features will be funded with the second grant.
What we've seen, having school-aged children, giving them the opportunity to go to an off-campus site to see more about the science and technology of our plants and flora fauna in South Mississippi.
Supported by 5-star restoration funding, work continues to enhance the gum pond exhibit. Project additions include providing public access and compatible recreational activities, conducting research and monitoring, planting and other improvements to wildlife habitat, on-site water quality efforts, and additional public education initiatives.
It was originally designed as part of our larger master plan for the 64-acre site of the Crosby Arboretum. The entire site will be built out for a variety of habitats that are native or found in this region.
Education, an essential element of natural resource conservation, has been embraced in a big way by the Gum Pond Project at the Crosby Arboretum. With hands-on involvement from Mississippi State University landscape architecture students, plenty of learning opportunities for youngsters, and effective outreach to the broader public, the Arboretum is making sure the environmental value of gum ponds is not forgotten. Invasive species. They are as bad as their name implies. Invasives are non-native, rapidly growing plants that can threaten the health and balance of natural habitats. Controlling them is a focus of many conservation efforts in the Southeast. The Atlanta Botanical Garden is making inroads against invasive species through its Urban Habitat Restoration Project, supported by Southern Company and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation through the 5-star restoration program. The project aims to restore a total of 10 acres at multiple sites across metropolitan Atlanta by removing invasive species from wetland and riparian forests and replacing them with non-invasive native species that are appropriate for the habitat. The 2-year project also incorporates educational outreach to involve citizens and educate the public about adverse impacts of invasive species. It is hoped that people, armed with good information, may take the battle against invasives to their own backyards.
A lot of the issues we have in our ecosystems here in the Southeast are sort of derived from invasive species. And Atlanta Botanical Gardens has a long history of conserving and protecting native plant species throughout the Southeast. we can go in and recreate an entire system with the plant species that they bring in, plus the physical work that's done.
The Atlanta Botanical Garden Project is a focused effort that concentrates on high-traffic areas and brings together a broad group of partners from across Atlanta.
So the project here involves the reclaiming of our natural lands within high-traffic urban areas. What we want to do is create awareness through trail creation and interpretive signage in these areas. And basically we're just removing all the invasive exotic species that are found in our parks today and replacing them with native plants that are appropriate for each ecotone that we're using.
Conservation projects in urban settings such as Atlanta face unique challenges and require innovative solutions. With support from Southern Company and its partners, committed organizations such as the Atlanta Botanical Garden are achieving measurable results and raising awareness of environmental stewardship among growing numbers of people across the Southeast.
Plant Hatch, a Southern Company nuclear power facility, is doing more than generating electricity. The plant in southeastern Georgia recently received international recognition for its contributions to wildlife habitat conservation when it was certified as a Wildlife at Work site. The certification from the Wildlife Habitat Council is given to corporate facilities that are committed to habitat enhancement, community outreach, and conservation education.
It's a pretty big commitment, both on the corporate level for funding and also on the plant level for the volunteers that actually implement the projects at the site. And we have to get it recertified every 3 years. It's an application process. They want to see, do you have programs in place? Are you logging what you do? Are you actually making a difference? And the programs have to be above and beyond what you normally do just for compliance purposes. So it's something we've had going for 20 years now at all 3 sites.
Habitat conservation is serious business at all 3 of Southern Company's nuclear facilities. At Hatch, which is co-owned by Southern Company's subsidiary Georgia Power and other partners, a formal land management plan is focused on timber management, including prescribed or controlled burning and reforestation. Other activities include establishment of food plots for deer and turkey. In addition, habitat for songbirds, raptors, waterfowl, and bats is provided on the sprawling property.
One of the more better known is the bluebird boxes. We get a lot of volunteers to help out on bluebird boxes. We have them posted around the sites. And volunteers go out every week or two and check the nest, log if we're getting eggs, if we're getting babies, how many fledge. That's one of the more popular projects we have too. Most of our plant properties tend to be pretty good size, but the plant itself will only take up about half the space. So you have maybe 1,000 acres left over or more that you can do stuff with. And that was kind of Wildlife Habitat Council's vision, I think, when they started back in the late 80s, is to utilize this space and make it better wildlife habitat, and companies and corporations have the money to do that kind of thing.
The many conservation efforts underway at Plant Hatch provide proof that environmental stewardship and energy production can go hand in hand. It's the kind of collaborative conservation that the Wildlife Habitat Council called the foundation of environmental stewardship. The threatened bird species southeastern American kestrel has found a friendly nesting space in an unlikely place. High-line electric transmission towers are providing areas for the birds to breed and help sustain their population. A lack of nesting habitats has contributed to the kestrel's declining population, but Southern Company subsidiary Georgia Power is working with its environmental stewardship partners to turn that around.
A lot of people are used to seeing kestrels around here fairly often, but in fact the breeding population is much smaller than that number and highly vulnerable. That's what we're trying to understand. Fortunately, the Southern Company and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation saw this as an important mission. They are supporting an effort to develop this strategic conservation plan.
The hollow cross arms of Georgia Power transmission towers have shown to be effective places for nesting, becoming a key tool in the effort to conserve the southeastern American kestrel. The high-rise nesting habitat can serve as a substitute for the bird's natural cavity nesting sites. Due to the age of the hollow cross arms, they are slowly being replaced. After each one is replaced, a nest box is placed on the tower to maintain the nesting habitat.
In the short term, what we're trying to do is enhance our population by putting out an awful lot of nest boxes. We're putting them on Georgia Power transmission right-of-ways, which oftentimes is very good habitat for kestrels, and Georgia Power has been a great cooperator, giving us access to their poles and letting us hang these boxes.
In addition to providing space for the rare birds to protect their young, the project has allowed conservationists an opportunity to learn more, so that further action may be explored to develop other, innovative ways to build up the kestrel population.
Through the last 10 years, we've learned a good bit more about the kestrels. We've also agreed with the DNR when we have to take down one of the hollow cross-arm structures. We'll put up nesting structures so that we don't impair the kestrel population and the nesting of the kestrels. And hopefully we can do some research to actually increase the nesting throughout the state.
Over the past decade, Southern Company and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation have led the way to restore the once mighty longleaf pine across the Southeast. Through the Longleaf Legacy Partnership, more than $8.7 million have been invested to restore more than 82,000 acres. Now the partnership is being expanded and strengthened under the banner of the Longleaf Stewardship Fund. This landmark public-private partnership adds the financial and technical resources of several federal agencies to the effort.
This is not just about additional money to put into the restoration of the longleaf pine. This is about new ideas, new people, new experts being brought in to help us generate projects, generate ideas, and take this longleaf restoration program to the next level.
The U.S. Department of Defense, Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, and Natural Resources Conservation Service are joining Southern Company and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation in the Longleaf Stewardship Fund. The focus continues to be restoring longleaf pine forests, a critical ecosystem that once encompassed 90 million acres of North America, but now is down to 3% of its original acreage.
In the next 5 years, we hope to invest about $20 million to try to restore. And why are we looking at restoring the longleaf pine? It's simply because there was about 90 million acres some years ago in the North American area of longleaf pine. The longleaf pine is where you find hundreds of unique, significant plants. You find many different threatened and endangered species that exist nowhere else but within the longleaf pine ecosystem. We have gone from 90 million acres down to about 3.4 million. And the desire is to re-establish or restore those acres as we talked about.
With many opportunities ahead, the Longleaf Stewardship Fund is poised to build upon the success of the Southern Company Partnership and accelerate the restoration effort across the 9 states within the Longleaf Pines Historic Region. In the Florida Panhandle, the recipe for a healthy environment calls for oyster shells, lots of them. Oyster shells are the main ingredient in a project to restore 22 oyster reefs at Bayou Tahar. Supported by Southern Company's subsidiary, Gulf Power, in partnership with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation through a 5-star restoration program grant, this project began with volunteers collecting 80 tons of oyster shells from the Pensacola area restaurants.
When we bag the oyster shells, we actually shovel from our recycled oyster shell pile and place them into large PVC pipes that hold the mesh bags underneath the pipes. And then once the bags are filled, we tie them off and place those out horizontally to build the reefs and stack them on top of each other. Oyster reefs have really important function in estuaries. They serve as habitat not only for oysters, but also for approximately 300 different aquatic species who use the reefs as some sort of habitat.
The Bayview Park Oyster Restoration Project will help increase oyster populations, provide nursery and foraging grounds for finfish, shellfish, and wading birds, and also aid in filtration of stormwater runoff into the bayou. The use of discarded shells from the restaurants also ensures involvement of the broader public.
What they did was they also worked into a waste product from the local restaurant trade of, we all love our oysters on the Gulf Coast, and they take all these oyster shells and they help make reefs out of them. The reefs promote more growth, the reefs promote more grass. In Bayou Tahar, which was a very heavily used, and there's a lot of boating activity, and fishing, and there's people swimming in it. People love to bring their dogs down to the water, and there's a dog park there. And every time you eat some oysters at one of our local restaurants, you're helping feed a local reef.
With an amazing diversity of plants and the role it plays as a habitat to many species, longleaf pine forests are essential to the natural health of the South. However, only a small fraction remains of the trees that once covered 95 million acres in the region. Southern Company recognized the importance of strong and effective conservation partnerships when it established the Environmental Stewardship Program with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation nearly a decade ago. The program continues to forge new alliances to save the longleaf pine. One of the recent initiatives is the Chattahoochee Fall Line Longleaf Project, which is building on an existing partnership with the U.S. Army in West Georgia on land adjacent to Fort Benning.
Southern Company entered into this project with the Nature Conservancy in 2011 to assist in managing their properties here and to offer financial assistance toward accomplishing their goals toward burning, and has already proven that it's been very helpful in them doubling their number of acres that they've been able to prescribe burn.
Prescribed burns and other land management practices are important to the restoration of the longleaf pine. The Chattahoochee Fall Line Longleaf Project employs a number of methods to achieve both immediate and far-reaching benefits with a focus on growing longleaf pine acreage.
Our short-term goals are to begin management on these properties that we've protected. Protected nearly 18,000 acres outside of Fort Benning, in which we intend to ecologically connect to Fort Benning. Our long-term goals are to protect somewhere around 40,000 acres by the year 2020. So lots of work and strategies going towards which lands are the most important to protect.
With millions of people enjoying hunting, fishing, birding, and hiking in longleaf forests, restoration of the ecosystem continues to be a priority for government agencies, conservation groups, and the public. From small things, big things come. A local river cleanup project started by a single Alabama Power employee has grown into one of the nation's most successful conservation programs. It's Renew Our Rivers, which since 1999 has evolved into a large-scale, grassroots program that includes Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and Mississippi. Those 4 states are served by Southern Company, the parent of Alabama Power. Through the end of 2011, Renew Our Rivers volunteers have pulled more than 12 million pounds of cans, bottles, tires, appliances, boats, and other trash out of southeastern waterways.
The Renew Our Rivers program began at the plants, at the power company plant, involving the employees, and it's expanded now in the 13th year. That involves many homeowners and boat owners associations and lake associations. We're actually finding less trash. So the awareness problem, the education and prevention aspect or phase of the Renew Our Rivers program seems to be working. People are getting more aware of not leaving trash out where it can blow into the water or even throw into the water. And we're getting less tonnage. You can look and see how each year that it's just slowly going down, which is a good thing.
While it's helping to protect the environment, Renew Our Rivers also serves as a catalyst for civic involvement and volunteerism.
I just feel good when the day's over, that we all did something good, not for ourselves, but for others.
Beyond the many company employees who volunteer, the Renew Our Rivers program has brought together thousands of other volunteer participants, including homeowner and boat owner associations, environmental groups, schools, and civic organizations.
Alabama Power provides bags and, inspiration and a barge to pick up awful things that end up in the river, like refrigerators, tires, all kinds of odd things.
One of the most productive, long-term efforts to preserve the longleaf pine has been the work in Northwest Florida by the Nature Conservancy, supported by Southern Company and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. The Conservancy has been working for many years in various projects to restore this vital habitat. Its latest project in the area is focused on restoring 600 acres of longleaf pine through the planting of 90,000 seedlings in Torreya State Park, and also providing assistance for the prescribed burning across the region, a practice that is essential to forest health.
The restoration at Torreya State Park is a full restoration from bare soil to intact longleaf community. In longleaf pine, there's a lot of big, beautiful trees, but the truth is the diversity is from the knees down. The prescribed fire part of this program, the assistance with our partners, is so important. All of the longleaf pine habitats in the southeast need to be burned on a 2 to 3 year interval, and that's a lot of work for folks, and we see our partnerships with the state and federal agencies as being key to get all that work done.
Longleaf pine restoration is a major component of Southern Company's environmental stewardship program in partnership with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. Through the Longleaf Legacy Program, Southern Company and its subsidiaries, including Gulf Power in Florida, support numerous community-based projects aimed at restoring the health and prominence of the once dominant tree.
Longleaf pine represents a lost heritage in the state of Florida, and right now it's only at about 4% of its historic range. Southern Company and Gulf Power's commitment to longleaf pine restoration in the southeast is rock solid. The longleaf pine forest to the south is essentially what the Rocky Mountains are to the west. I mean, it's the vista that makes you pause and stop in your tracks and just wonder in awe. And who wouldn't want to see more of that in the southeast, given it's our Rocky Mountains?
It's something that so many of us take for granted, a day at the lake catching fish. But many special needs children have never had that opportunity. Making it happen for kids in Alabama is the idea behind Exceptional Anglers. The program was started as a small event in 1995 by Alabama Power and the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. It has grown to what is now a 3-day annual event at Oak Mountain State Park. The 2012 Exceptional Anglers event drew nearly 1,000 children, many of whom got to experience fishing and the great outdoors for the first time.
The goal is for each child to catch a fish and to have an outdoor experience. There are other events going on. The kids will rotate in, so it's not just fishing. They'll have all other kind of activities. But it's a good day outside introducing the children to fishing.
In the years since the program began, Alabama Power, a subsidiary of Southern Company, has been joined by several other corporate sponsors. In a sign of the program's success and growth, a total of more than 600 volunteers took part in the latest event, and the site has been enhanced with accessibility improvements to the pier, including wheelchair access.
Most of them have never caught a fish, so when they get out here with some of our volunteer coaches and they get a chance to actually catch a fish, you hear a lot of screaming, hooping and hollering, yelling, and it's just a great experience for us because fishing is fun. And that's our message to the general public and to the school systems that come out and do this is that fishing is a great recreational sport. It's a great family sport, and we would love to have more people come out and just enjoy fishing. And these kids get to do that.
Protecting beach nesting birds has attracted greater public awareness following the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010, but efforts on the Gulf Coast had been underway for many years before that event. Conservian, one of the significant ongoing coastal bird conservation efforts on the Gulf Coast, has been supported by Southern Company and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation through the Power of Flight program. Conservian works to increase populations of coastal bird species such as Wilson's plover, snowy plover, and the American oystercatcher that have been in decline because of habitat loss resulting from development, human activities, and other factors.
We work all over the Gulf Coast. We have projects in every Gulf Coast state. Our primary goals are research, monitoring, and protection of beach nesting birds and beach nesting bird habitats and shorebird habitats all around the Gulf Coast. Our goal is to increase habitat quality and populations of shorebirds and beach nesting birds.
Bird conservation became more of a challenge following the oil spill. In addition to the effects of the spill itself, cleanup activities put more strain on bird habitats. Conservian played a leading role in documenting the impact as well as working to ensure that the influx of cleanup crews and heavy equipment did not further disturb fragile habitats.
A lot of people don't realize that cleanup has gone on 2010, 2011, and 2012, and may continue, which continues to be a disturbance and a problem for the beach nesting birds out here all over the Gulf.
Southern Company, with operating subsidiaries on the Gulf Coast in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, has a strong interest in the natural health of the region and has been an avid supporter of Conservian and other bird conservation efforts.
It's a very good link up with Gulf Power and Southern Company because we believe in proven methods of conservation that work, our little part helps, and it helps support a very important customer, even the very small ones that nest on our beach.
My hat comes off to Southern Company and their unending dedication to wildlife.